everybody, and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm making a very simple recipe, and this is jam tarts. This was requested by my niece Hannah, who hasn't had jam tarts for quite a while. Now these are not the same as the jam tarts you can buy in shops, because they have a very soft pastry, which is a bit cakey, and the jam is almost like a jelly that has been sort of dropped inside it. It's not been baked at all. For traditional British jam tarts, the jam goes into the pastry and is baked in the oven. So that's what I'm going to do. But it's very simple. You make the pastry, you put you chill it, heat the oven, put the jam in the pastry, bake it, and that's all there is to it. And for this, it's best to use a bun tin or a tart tin, and they look like this. So the diameter is the same as a muffin tin, but they're much shallower, as you can see probably there. And I have two different types here. This one tends to not be as sloped on the sides, but if you don't have a bun tin, you can use some. But if you don't have a bun tin, you can use something similar. You could even use a muffin tin, but only put the pastry in sort of a little way up the side of the muffin tin, or you could use a mini muffin tin and line the entire thing with pastry. Then you would have a deeper tart, but it'd still be very nice. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and for this I have 150 grams, which is 1 cup, based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup of plain flour. And I have 20 grams, 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of corn flour. Now if you don't have corn flour, just use an extra 20 grams of plain flour, that would be fine. The corn flour will make it slightly softer, the pastry. Then I have 15 grams, 2 tablespoons of icing sugar. I have 100 grams, 7 tablespoons of butter, which I have cut into small cubes, and that's cold. I have the yolk from 1 medium egg, which would be large in the USA, and I have some ice cold water, and we'll just need to drop a teaspoon or 2 of water into the dough as we're mixing it until it binds together. And then I have here about 150 grams, which is 8 or 9 tablespoons, of strawberry jam. That's what I'm using at the moment, but you could use raspberry jam, apricot jam, or black cherry, or whatever jam you have basically. And you can use a combination of the jams if you want to as well. So that's all the ingredients, and the first thing we need to do is to make the pastry. And to make the pastry, I'm going to do this in my processor bowl of my immersion blender, but you can do it by hand. So for instance, you could put the flour, the corn flour, the sugar into a large bowl, add the butter, and rub the butter between your fingers until the whole thing is like fine breadcrumbs. But I'm going to do that in the processor bowl simply because I can do it in a matter of seconds. So I'll put the 3 dry ingredients, the flour, the corn flour, and the icing sugar, into my processor bowl, and then I'm just going to pulse them just a little bit so that they get combined. That's fine like that. So then I need to add in my butter. I'm just going to toss that around a little bit to get the butter coated, and then I'm going to process that until the mixture is like, as I said, fine breadcrumbs. And that's good like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip that into a bowl. I could do it all in the food processor, but I'm going to tip it into a bowl just to show you. And that's good. So then I'm going to add my egg in, my egg yolk should I say. Now if there's a little bit of white in, it doesn't really matter. It just means you'll need slightly less water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break that up and begin to stir it, and I'm going to add into that about 10 millilitres of water to start with, which is 2 teaspoons. And I'm going to just mix this around until it clumps together into a dough. And that is beginning to clump, but I'm going to add another 10 millilitres, 2 teaspoons of water, and mix more. So I'm going to add about another teaspoon of water. So that will be 5 teaspoons in all I've added. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my hand to squeeze that to see if it comes into a nice dough. And if it doesn't, I can add a little drop more water, but you don't want to add too much water. It simply makes the pastry hard. So squeezing that, I can feel that straight away. That's a nice soft dough. So I'm going to put that into some plastic wrap. So I'll just squeeze it in my hand to make sure it's all come together properly without kneading it. And then I'm going to flatten that into a disc of maybe 1 inch thickness, just like that. And I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to chill it in the fridge for 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes I'll come back and we'll roll it out and we'll make the tarts. I chilled the pastry dough for 30 minutes or so, slightly longer than 30 minutes actually, and I've taken it out and I've put it onto my work surface, and I've actually laid it on the plastic wrap that it was in just for ease. I'm going to put some flour on the top, and I'm going to roll it out to a thickness of about 3 millimeters, which is slightly more than 1/8 of an inch probably. You could do it slightly thicker if you wanted to, it's up to you. And that's probably good enough like that. So here I have an 8 centimetre cutter, and with a straight edge and a scalloped edge. And 8 centimetres is just over 3 inches. And this is slightly larger than the circumference of my tart pan. So I'm going to cut out some rounds like that, and I'm going to put those as levelly as I can into the pan, and then I'm just going to take a little bit of the pastry off the side there and press that down. Like that, and do the same with the remainder. re-rolling the pastry until I've got 12. So there I have my 12 cases. I have a little bit of pastry left over which I can do some more with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spoon some jam into that. Now when you bake jam tarts with jam, it will boil and it will start to bubble, and around the edges it will become sort of toffee like and chewy, and some people like that, some people prefer not to have it, but one of the ways of reducing that toffee effect is to take just a dash of water and put it into your jam and mix it through. And this is a tip that I found on something like Baking with Granny, I think, something like that, or Bake with Granny. I hadn't heard of this tip before, but I thought I would try it. So with that, like that, I'm going to take about 2 teaspoons probably of the jam and put it into them. How much jam you put in is up to you, but remember that if you put too much in, it's likely to bubble over. And with the jam fairly evenly distributed, I'm going to put that tray into my fridge and I'm going to chill it while I preheat my oven to 190 degrees Celsius. That's 170 Celsius with a fan, 375 Fahrenheit. And then once the oven has come to temperature, I'll take it out of the fridge and put it into the oven, and I'll bake it for about 15 minutes until the pastry has cooked through and the jam has bubbled and has set on, will set on the top once it comes out. So once it's baked for 15 minutes, I'll take them out of the oven, transfer them to a wire rack, and when they've cooled down, I'll come back and show you the results. I baked the jam tarts, the strawberry jam tarts, for 15 minutes. I took them out of the oven, but I left them in the pan, in the little tart or bun pan, for 20 minutes as well. That was so that the very, very hot jam could settle down and set. Then I transferred them to a wire rack and I've allowed them to cool completely. So they've baked up very nicely. And if I show you this one, you can see where the jam has bubbled around the sides and hasn't quite gone, it will be sticky obviously as jam is, but hasn't quite gone to the toffee state that it would have done if I hadn't put the water in, I think. So they look very, very good, and I'll have a taste. Oh, before I have a taste of this, I'm just going to turn this around because I made a second batch of dough to make some apricot, some raspberry and some black cherry, and they look very good as well, I have to say. So I'll have a taste of the strawberry one because that's what I was doing basically. Very nice. It's lovely tender pastry, which is not overly sweet. There's only a little bit of sugar in the pastry, but you don't need much sugar in that because of the sweetness from the strawberry jam. And obviously that tastes good, but how good it tastes will depend on the quality of the jam. Now you could make your own jam, but I think for something like jam tarts, shop bought jam is just as good and certainly much, much quicker. So this is a very simple recipe and doesn't take too many ingredients either. And as I said, You can put whatever jam you want in. You could put marmalade in. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen, if I can get my hand in there, there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.